Alright there guys, and welcome back to the second channel. That's right, we've got another video for the second channel this month. I told you this channel deserves some long overdue attention and it's finally getting it. So for episode 30 of Real Talk, yeah, the big 3-0, we're going to be tackling, the topic we're going to be looking at today is work and employment. So I made a video over 5 years ago now, back in the first lockdown, yeah, that long ago. I made a video on this channel titled "The Unnecessary Pressure Put on Young People to Get Their First Job." It was episode 13, and it will also be linked in the description of this video if you want to go check that out. So I'm going to rehash a couple of things from that video in this one quickly. The main things that annoyed me about that when I was talking in the topics of that video were basically how much harder it is to get your first job nowadays as opposed to like 20, 30, 40 years ago, for example. How basically back then you could walk into a place with your CV, ask for an interview, and well, probably at least get an interview. Nowadays, there ain't none of that. Everything is online. You have to apply online. They'll either call you or they'll tell you if you've got an interview or not. And the process for doing this is so annoying, especially if you try and do it through Indeed. Oh my god, I absolutely hate Indeed with a passion. So frustrating. Because it just puts obstacle after obstacle after obstacle right in the way when you're trying to apply for something. It's so annoying. And the reason why I decided to come up with this video idea is because, if you didn't know, in the second half of my 2024 year in review last year, my second video, I talked about the fact that I finally, and I mean finally, got a job. Not a full-time one even. Literally just any job, I finally got one. I don't work very long hours. I don't work that much at all throughout the week. But I do have a job. Finally. Little did I know that back then in 2020 when I made that video, it had been less than a year since I'd started looking for one. Little did I know I'd have to wait another 4 years and a bit after that video before I actually got a job. If only I knew that back then whilst we were in the first lockdown. And this video is basically just talk about how it is possible. No matter how much you think you just won't get a job because no one will ever hire you. Because that's exactly how I felt. I would say my advice to you would be to just get lucky, but that's not advice, is it? That's not advice in the slightest. Because I mean, I got hired for the job that I now work at, and I've worked at the same job for the last for about 9 months now. It's the only job I've ever had, and I've been there for about 9 months or so. That was only my 4th ever job interview. So it sounds that I did quite well if it only took me 4 job interviews before I actually got one. And yeah, you could look at it that way. But until you realise those 4 interviews were spread from late 2019 to mid 2024. When you realise that those interviews were spread across nearly 5 whole years, then you can understand that no, it wasn't an easy process at all. So my advice to anyone who's struggling, who's never had a job before and is trying to get into the world of work, my advice to you would be just keep applying for stuff. Because one of the biggest problems is, like, you'll have been told this many times in school, what do you want to do when you leave school? And you don't have a clue. You've got absolutely no idea in the slightest what you actually want to do once you leave school, like what you want to do for a job. I didn't know. Like, I didn't imagine what I do now would be what I would be doing as my first job once I left school, especially after the 2 years at college I had. So my advice would be basically keep applying for as many things as you can, as long as obstacles are not being thrown in your face constantly, like on Indeed. See if you can get lucky. Look at like Facebook groups that post like stuff and companies that are advertising for jobs. Hopefully you can find something there, and maybe it tells you, instead of to email the person that owns the company, for the job. And also, in my experience, this might not be the same for you, but in my experience, it does not matter in the slightest how well you think your interview went. Because my the last 2 interviews I had, so the second most recent one was in October 2023, right? I did that interview and I felt that went pretty well. I did not get the job. But then, my most recent interview in July of 2024 for the job that I currently now work at, I thought my interview for that job went absolutely terribly. I thought it went really badly. I don't think it went well in the slightest. But I got the job. Now, that might not be the same experience for you, but in my experience, how well you think you did on an interview, for me, doesn't matter in the slightest. Not even a little bit. Maybe you'll think you did really well in an interview and then you actually get the job. Or you think you didn't do well in an interview and you don't get the job. That's more of what you expect to happen. But in my experience, you can feel you did horribly in an interview and still get the job, because I somehow did it. So it's a much shorter video than the one I made that I'm linking in the description, nearly half the length. In fact, shorter than half. But yeah, that is episode 30 of Real Talk, the big 30. I hope you guys have enjoyed. If you have, please be sure to leave a like. Subscribe to this channel and my main channel, which is currently on a small break, which maybe videos may return to it at the end of May, if not, definitely in June. And until we meet again, see you next time.